Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. And today we have Deadpool and Wolverine, and we're now more than 5 years into this experiment. This is from, of course, 2024. It just came out just a few hours ago at midnight Pacific time, for me anyway. It is 2 hours and 10 minutes long, and yes, it is the long-awaited third film in the Deadpool series, presented to us by Disney, and trust me, they remind you of that many, many times throughout the film. It's the kind of film that when Disney bought Fox, and again, this film is also very much about Disney buying Fox and the whole rights issue sort of resolving itself in a rather dramatic and superheroic and foul-mouthed way. This pair, people always dreamed of it happening, and then suddenly Disney bought Fox, and they're just like, yeah, no, they're never going to make that happen now. That's Disney. Why would Disney make a Deadpool film? And they're going to probably water it down, make it PG-13. It'd be just neutered. And again, the idea that they made a Wolverine film, Logan, which is considered probably the best of all the mutant films that have ever been made to date, although there's plenty of good ones out there. Lots of them out there, and they're mostly all on Disney Plus right now. Not all of them. You never thought you'd get a rated R Wolverine film, much less Wolverine joining Deadpool. He was done. Hugh Jackman was done. Just like Patrick Stewart, the two of them, they said, yeah, after Logan, we went out on a high note. I just can't beat that with these characters that we helped bring to the big screen. We also helped, well, not with Patrick Stewart. He already had a big U.S. career, due to Star Trek: The Next Generation. But Hugh Jackman was pretty much unknown, being a man who's more of a dramatic and a musical actor and done stuff on Broadway and things like that. But yeah, for him to jump into a role that had just been dropped by someone else, Scott, I can't remember his name. That's the problem. He was still the guy before him, Doug Ray Scott. The guy before him, Doug Ray Scott, was still tied to Mission Impossible films, and he had to leave. And they brought in this guy. He kind of fit the look. He's a bit taller than Wolverine, but he has the look. And they chose him, and he had very little time to jump into the role and take it on. And one of the great things about this film, I'm going to spoil a tiny bit here. Odds are, if you wanted to see this film, you have already seen it. I'm going to think that there's a few spoilery things that I'm going to say here. So if you, for some reason, are watching this before you actually see the film for the first time, you probably want to stop. Come back to me later. We'll talk about it. There's a scene toward the end, during the credits. Usually we get that mid-credits sequence, which either sometimes forwards the story, teases something else, or is just a joke. That's actually the final scene after the credits, in this case. But yeah, don't show that to your grandma, that one. This one is, the mid-credits sequence, which runs during the credits, is actually sort of a retrospective of all the 20th Century Fox films, mostly all of them. The Ghost Rider was not in there, either one of those. There's plenty of Elektra, Daredevil, X-Men from all the different generations of films, Wolverine, Logan, of course, Fantastic Four, all of those are in there. And it's set to Green Day's time of your life. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's a little bit, it's a tribute to the films that kind of really started things. I know. Blade, I know. I know Blade, it's just, hey, Man Thing. They made a Man Thing film. Most people have never seen that. But yeah, Blade is the reason that a lot of these films even were able to get further production. But at a time when Marvel was not doing great, it took, and certainly wasn't owned by Disney, they took a chance at saying, you know what, the most popular characters in the Marvel Universe are the X-Men. 20th Century Fox owned the rights, and they made those films. And it made, I mean, Spider-Man was already in the works at Sony, and so, but still the idea that all these things were starting to be put out and were successful. People were hungry for them, and they were good. They weren't perfect. They were good, though. And we loved them. We enjoyed them. And to imagine that now there's a Marvel Studios under Disney that is just, I mean, Marvel Studios before Disney. Most of the first original films were all put out by Paramount. Yeah. Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor. And then Hulk came in through Universal. Like, it's just a mishmash of things. But yeah, now we're getting all these characters together, bigger and bigger. We're building towards Secret Wars. It's getting crazy. But this film is pretty much just saying it out loud. It's saying all those things that were kind of separate, that felt not as important, not official, especially once Marvel Studios rose to power and became this juggernaut of non-stop hit, big blockbuster movies that people couldn't wait to, give their money over to the movie theaters for. We get this situation where the people at the Fox Studios are, just like, oh, well, our movies aren't canon. They're not part of the bigger picture. And part of this struggle we see in Wade in wanting to be relevant. He wants to do something important. He wants to be a hero. He wants to do the right thing for his girl, Vanessa. He just wants to matter. Because he feels that as crazy and jokey as he is, and violent, he's not really superhero material for the most part. While he's super, super violent and doesn't take anything seriously, at the same time, he does want to be taken just a little bit seriously. And that's the same sentiment of going, all these great films we have made from another studio, they want to matter. And yeah, we had Spider-Man, No Way Home, and we brought together all the Peter Parkers at once, and that was amazing. I can't say it opened the door, but it was one of the first steps to realizing that the multiverse exists and connects. Yeah, Multiverse of Madness. Yes, Loki. Yes, all these other things. And also, Endgame too. Endgame took into consideration a number of things, and when it came to time travel and alternate realities and things like that. And of course, what if? But this is sort of saying, look, we're closing the door on everything that came before at 20th Century Fox. But not unceremoniously. We get to see some familiar faces, and we get to see, of course, Wolverine returning in the yellow and blue suit, which has always been something people have, fans, not the general populace of the world who doesn't care one way or the other, but fans have always wanted to see him dress up in. And there's even a discussion as to why he's wearing this rather than the black leather or just a brown coat and jeans and a cowboy hat or something. Like there's reasoning behind why he's wearing this costume now as to compared to any other time in the past. And it was teased, yes, in the Wolverine film, the final scene. But again, it was when it was going to happen. No, it was not going to happen in Mangold's Logan film. No, it was too much not like a superhero film to say, let's put on bright colors. It's rated R. This is rated R, thankfully. And yes, as if you don't already know, this is not made for children, even though I did sit in a few screenings in the theater with their 5-year-olds near me. I just don't understand adult parents. I just don't. Supposedly adult parents. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so we get it's not for the kids, and it's probably not for your more conservative parents who've never said a bad word in their lives. So yeah, don't sit down at Thanksgiving and watch this with the family. You probably can't, depending on your family. But most that have little ones and older ones who are just, still living that James Dean, Marilyn Monroe era of film, that's about as rebellious as they got with their movies. But in this, what we have here, I'm going to sort of give you a little peek. Just what we get. What I told you earlier is the fact that Deadpool, Wade Wilson, wants to become a relevant hero. He wants to join the Avengers, and he has a little bit of a tool that allows him to visit certain realities where the Avengers exist. They don't in his reality, but it's a little something that came out of Deadpool 2 helped him out with that. So, of course, he goes looking for Wolverine and fixing everything up. It's told a little bit out of order of the very first opening sequence, which you, again, but what you want to do with any major films, whether it's even a drama or an action film or a sci-fi or fantasy or anything else, they always have to have a major, exciting conflict in the first 5 minutes. A friend of mine wrote a book about it, and he has proven that whether it's just Tom Hanks rom-com or Jaws or Star Wars, everything. Most movies are structured to have that big 5-minute sequence at the very beginning. And what we get in Deadpool is Deadpool desecrating the memory of Logan. Yes, if you didn't already know, Logan died at the end of his film. Wolverine died. And yeah, so he's digging up his grave and unfortunately finds that, Wolverine is really dead. And suddenly we get a little bit of a crossover bit from the world of Loki on Disney Plus. We get a little bit of the TVA coming after him for using his time travel device. And it becomes a problem. But and we get to see some familiar locations and eventually some familiar people from the Loki series. And then Deadpool gets a new mission that will hopefully change everything for him. And it brings him into conflict and then team up with Wolverine as Hugh Jackman. Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, best buddies. They pretend to be enemies in real life, but they're best buddies. And there's a ton of cameos. There's some cameos. Of course, the Deadpool core is made up of a number of different people, even if they just provided the voices, not the bodies. But you get to see Lady Deadpool. There's a cowboy one. There's Kid Pool. There's Dog Pool, of course. And Dog Pool is actually the ugliest dog in England. I think she is the ugliest dog in England. She won an award for that at some point, and she gets to play Dog Pool. And Kid Pool is played. I'm gonna spoil this if you're not. It's not story important at all, but Kid Pool is actually played by Ryan Reynolds' daughter. Yeah, his preteen daughter. Lady Deadpool played by his wife. So why can't I say her name? Blake Lively. And Baby Pool is actually played by his other child. Yeah, it's a CG character for part of it, but Baby Pool is, I guess, voiced by the baby of Blake and Ryan. So these are just unimportant little trivia that makes it fun. But tons of old appearances, cameos from classic X-Men villains, from Sabretooth to Toad, all played by their original actors. Juggernaut's played by a different actor. We get there's just too many to list. But yeah, and we get a villain in Cassandra Nova, which is a woman pulled from the comics from, I believe, Grant Morrison's run on the new X-Men. And she is the twin of Charles Xavier. Yeah. She's depicted a little bit differently in this one. In the comics, she's sort of a very crone-like, big-headed, just creepy woman who is immensely powerful. Charles Xavier level powerful, but in a different way. But she's played by a much younger Emma Corrin, and looks good bald. So I'm just gonna put that out there. So, but we get, a lot of all the cast members from the previous Deadpool movies. Even Colossus shows up. And we do get Colossus and Wolverine in the same room, but we don't see them interact because they don't. I think they're from different realities, so they wouldn't necessarily know each other. And I think that would have been a difficult thing. Man, is there a deleted scene where we see Wolverine hugging Colossus? That would be an emotional moment considering his story arc. I'm not gonna explain that, but when you put that together, that would seem to be a pretty traumatic scene that we never got to see. Do we want me to spoil some of the other big cameos? I'm gonna put my hands up like this so you can mute this for as long as my hands are up, and as long as my hands are like this, you can mute me, and then as long as you don't read lips, when my hands are down, then the spoilers will be gone. Of course, okay, we're starting now with the spoilers of the cameos. Jennifer Garner as Elektra, Wesley Snipes as Blade, Channing Tatum as Gambit, Daphne Keane as X-23, returning from the Logan film, all grown up, and yeah, those are big cameos. The only thing that I really miss, okay, I'm gonna put my hands down now. The only thing I really miss about those cameos, those major cameos in this film, is that just watching it at home on Disney Plus, it's not as easy to enjoy it with the crowd that on opening night, especially. I was lucky this came out. I didn't get to go to the screening at Comic-Con, which was in Hall H, and would have had the most horribly uncomfortable seats and not as good popcorn, I imagine. But I didn't get to go to that. But jeez, I went to see it later that night at a local theater, an AMC, out in Mission Valley, whatever. And the energy of the crowd, even at midnight, just cheering, screaming, laughing, just reacting viscerally to everything, especially those special appearances by certain characters. It's always fun to see a Marvel movie on an opening night where people are just into it. It's the only thing that Disney Plus can't give us. And honestly, it's really weird, even though this is, okay, it's not an IMAX formatted thing, but one of the things, it felt different. Like there were scenes that felt different, or dialogue that seemed different. I'm probably wrong. I might have to do some double checking, but it's slightly different, especially in the first few minutes. I don't know. But yeah, it's super violent, super raunchy. It has to make this explain this as nice as I can. It has the most violent sex scene in movie history, as far as I know, major motion picture history that I've seen anyway. I don't know. Blue Velvet? I don't know. I don't think I've seen Blue Velvet. I know it's a bit intense, but yeah, it's not romantic. It's not meant to be, and it's not actually sex. It is something that it is what it is. So it is the most violent, funny sex scene in certainly Marvel history. We'll never see anything like it. Certainly not with that tone or innuendo associated with such a conflict. But yeah, don't try this in your Honda Odyssey van at home. So I'll just say that. It's really 20 minutes of me babbling about this is all I can really say. I need to convince Marvel fans to go see it, to watch it on Disney Plus, even though you might have seen it 3 times in the theater, and it's the biggest money-making film for almost anything. It's certainly the biggest rated R film of all time, and it's Marvel's biggest hit in a long time. Let's just say that in the theaters. Hopefully, Brave New World in February and Thunderbolts * in An asterisk means something. And there's, by the way, new trailers out from Disney Brazil convention, Disney Expo Brazil. Check those out on Disney Plus, or not, on YouTube. They have trailers out now for those. And a neat little trailer for What If Season 3, which is the final season of What If, and some major appearances of certain characters, which will be fun to see. I'm going to tell you what this random device they picked the other day. It was number 130. I've already moved it over, dang it. Here it is. This is what we're watching tomorrow. Usually it's, well, this was randomly selected yesterday. And now I'm going to watch it tomorrow because this is what I picked for today. We're going to be watching, live in front of a studio audience, The Facts of Life and Different Strokes. If you love those shows as a kid, if you're my age, if you love those shows as a kid, and you get to see them with a whole new cast, hosted by the man who created it along with Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah. So, live in front of a studio audience, and it was filmed live and actually shown live when they recorded it. When it was on ABC originally. I believe I've seen this one. I know they did another one with 2 other shows, but yeah, it's really fun. I'm looking forward to watching it again. So 2 in a row that I've seen before. Anyway, live in front of a studio audience, The Facts of Life and Different Strokes is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.